Well, good afternoon. We'll begin this hour with breaking news, and the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The court says that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Netanyahu and his former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant each bear criminal responsibility for the war crime of intentionally directing an attack against the civilian population in Gaza. Well, the ICC has also issued an arrest warrant for the leader of Hamas, Mohammed, for what it says are alleged crimes against humanity and war crimes committed on the territory of the State of Israel and the State of Palestine. This arrest warrant for Yoav Gallant, as well as the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has been wanted by the ICC. The chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, applied for these arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister and Defence Minister, as was former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, back on the 20th of May this year. Those warrants, that application was challenged by the State of Israel on a number of grounds. In its ruling today, the ICC has said that despite those applications to have the arrest warrant not followed through, the ICC says that there are reasonable grounds to suspect that Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant oversaw attacks on civilian population, as well as challenging Israel's argument that because Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, which binds nations to the International Criminal Court, the court had no jurisdiction over Israel and therefore could not level these charges, these arrest warrants for these particular charges. The court had decided, following, as I say, the application made by the chief prosecutor on the 20th of May, Karim Khan, for these arrest warrants to be put in place, that the court itself did not have jurisdiction over Israel, as Israel was not a signatory to the ICC, to the Rome Statute. The court says that that is not warranted in this particular case. They are happy for these warrants to continue and have said that despite that, the Chamber noted the acceptance of the court's jurisdiction is not required, as the court can exercise its jurisdiction on the basis of territorial jurisdiction of Palestine. They say, this is the reading from the court that's just been released, as determined by pre-trial Chamber 1 in a previous composition. Furthermore, they go on to say that the statute states are not entitled to challenge the court's jurisdiction under Article 19.2 prior to the issuance of the warrant of arrest. They say, thus, this makes Israel's challenge premature. This is without prejudice to any future possible challenge to the court's jurisdiction and/or admissibility of any particular cases. So the ICC has now issued these arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as who is now his former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. Yoav Gallant, who stood down just a couple of weeks ago after having a falling out with Prime Minister Netanyahu. At the time, it was described as a crisis of confidence between the two men. They had a falling out about the way that the war was being prosecuted. Reports from the region suggesting that Yoav Gallant had wanted to come to a ceasefire agreement earlier. Of course, there is still no ceasefire in Gaza. There is, of course, still reportedly at least 100 hostages being held by groups in Gaza. Yoav Gallant and Benjamin Netanyahu had a falling out over whether or not they could come to a ceasefire agreement. That had not happened. Mr. Gallant has stepped down, replaced by a former foreign minister of Israel, Israel Katz, as defence minister, but now the ICC have issued those arrest warrants for them. We will, of course, have plenty more on the news that the ICC have issued the arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as Yoav Gallant. The arrest warrants issued because the ICC says there are reasonable grounds to believe that Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant oversaw attacks on civilian population in Gaza, which is the second of the crimes that can be prosecuted by the ICC. The second, that they can prosecute crimes against humanity, which are serious violations committed as part of a large-scale attack against any civilian population. for the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the former Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, now subject to ICC arrest warrants in the last few minutes. We're going to have the very latest from the region.